Hey guys, I just want to throw a quick Albion Castle basics video together for a lot of the newer players that are joining the guild, just so they can just visually see what how to do castles, just the bare bone basics. I don't want to waste too much time, so let's get right into it. This is the castle layout. Every castle is exactly the same. You have the first level, the first tier. You have the chest room. This is where the elite guards will spawn, and you have the lord room where the lord spawns. Points of interest, so like when you hear a lot of people say safe spot to stand or look for the tower, we're gonna push the tower, etc. I have marked here with the red dots exactly the towers that people consistently call out during fights, so you can visually see. On the first level, all the DPS, pretty much anyone that's not a tank or a shot caller, needs to be standing in these safe spots, these green boxes. You don't want to, if you're standing around where the cursor is, you could potentially be caught when the enemy Zerg runs to the walls and engages, trying to push the first level. So the first level, you want to stand in these two boxes right here. Typically, the raid will be split, or if you have multiple guilds, they'll hold different sides. But typically, over a shot caller wants you to stand, so like west side safe spot or east side safe spot. That's typically where you'll stand on the first level. Right here in the corner. You won't get caught if the gates are up from the enemy. Now for the chest room, which is the tier above, if you go through these gates here, you'll want to just stand on the back side. This is the safe zone right here for the chest room. Typically the shot caller will say, we're going to engage west. You'll run to the tower. I'll show that in a later demonstration or a later video. But typically this is where you want to stand. And then if you're pushed so far back, you have the lord room right here. This is where you'll stand. Typically at this point, people will log out if the shot caller will call for it. They'll say, all right, we're logging out. You'll run back here in the lord room to log out if all hope is lost and you're gonna overrun. We have the gates. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You have the southwest castle gate, the west chest gate, typically depending on the tier, the level of the castle you're on. If you're in the chest room level, they'll just say west gate, and that just means west chest gate. Depending on the level. If you're in the lord room, they'll mean lord gate. And so on and so forth. East, southeast. So for castle defenses, defending is much easier than attacking a castle. Most everybody knows that. I just had some very clean, simple visual representations of what to expect. So, like I was saying earlier, if you're staying on the first tier defending and you're in the safe spot, and they're gonna say, west gate, we're gonna engage. We're engaging west gate in 3, 2, 1. You'll run to the tower to drop your E's. Typically, the tanks will be standing here where my cursor is. During the countdown, the tanks will run through the gate. They'll start getting clumps ready. And then hopefully, by the time you're sprinting with your boots, you'll pop your night helm. You'll get to the tower, and you'll look for any clumps that your tanks has hopefully secured for you. You drop your E's, and then you immediately go back. Once you throw your E, you go back to the safe spot. You wait for the next engage. They might tell you to, hey, all right, we're gonna engage on the east gate. So you'll run, you'll sit at the east gate of safe spot. Same exact thing. You'll run to the tower. You'll drop your E. You'll go back. That's the first level. When you're defending the chest room, same thing. You sit in the green, in this area right here where the green box is. West gate, east gate. You run to the tower, you throw your E's, you run back. Same thing with lower room. Very, very straightforward, very simple. Defending is much easier. Let's see. All right, so for castle attack, this is what I call phase 1. You'll get in a position. Typically, if you're pushing southwest gate, you'll have your group or your raid or whatever you want to call it, your party. They'll get in a position here, typically, right in front of the gate, but at a safe distance, so they can't get bombed from the enemy towers. You'll have your tanks move up. They'll start banging on the gate if the shot caller calls for it, and then you'll get ready. Same thing with courtyard. Same thing with east gate. It's just you get in a position. So the way that you attack the first tier gates, you'll typically you'll be in position right where my cursor would be in the previous slide. You'll be standing here with your party. Your shot caller will call for the engagement. They'll say, "All right, everybody get their sprints and their night helms ready. We're going to engage northeast on the tower in 3, 2, 1, etc." Your tanks will, typically you'll counter engage. So the enemy will run from their safe spot. They'll get ready to drop your E's. You'll counter engage on them, and hopefully your Camlins or your Soul Scythes can get big clumps. You'll run up to where the corner right here. This is the best screen advantage for pushing tier 1 tower, or the first tier of the castle. You'll clump them all up. You'll drop your E's, and then you pull back. Now, locusts are very, very vital for success in pushing. You need an offensive locust and a defensive locust. Typically, these will be assigned by your shot caller ahead of time, but the offensive locust will want to drop his E on any clumps or just on the tower. Has a decent radius appropriately, and then a defensive will drop it on the party so you guys don't get clapped. It's very, very important to have good locust players in pushing a castle. Same thing on east side. It's the same thing. You get, you push the corner when the shot caller calls it. You drop your E's. You pull back to the safe spot at a safe distance. You rinse and repeat. At this time, your tanks will be wanting to hang around the gate. You'll want a few of the tanks pushing with hammers on the gate. Safely. You don't always you don't want to sit there and get clapped as a group of tanks. You gotta be careful. Have a few tanks at a safe distance, ready to counter engage if their tanks start rushing out. So, yeah, that's typically tanks, locusts, DPS, and healers, yeah. Alright, we got phase 2. So, the gates are down. You've repelled them. There's still plenty of enemies in the castle still. You still have plenty of guys. What you want to do is when the shot caller calls it, you'll want to move in. So, let's say you get the west gate down here. You'll want to move in and spread as quickly as possible. You want to spread along the wall. Typically your healers in the range DPS will spread along the wall. Melee and tanks will be on the stairs. Here. You never want to be in this choke right here with the X. The only people that will be here are the tanks. They'll be, like I said, the tanks will be split. You'll have some tanks banging on the gate. You'll have some tanks ready to counter engage their tanks if they come rushing out. You never want to be standing here if you're a DPS, support, healer. Same goes for the other side. The east gate's down. You rush in. You don't get in you get out of the choke as quickly as possible, and you spread. Once you're in position and your group is ready, your shot caller will be looking for engagements while the tanks are pushing down the gates. This is what I call the phase 2.5 of pushing the chest level. You have two spots that you can run up to, but typically you want to hit this corner where my cursor is. Same thing as the first tier. You want to have a defensive locust on the party. You pop sprints, you pop night helms, you run to the position, you throw your E, you look for any clumps. As soon as your E is thrown, you run back spread out. You rinse and repeat until either the gate's down. Yeah, until the gate's down and they're all dead. Oh. Alright, so we got phase 3 of castle. Once the gates are down, I messed up this drawing, of course. Once the gates are down, same thing. When the shot caller calls for it, you'll move up. You won't stand in the choke as a DPS support or healer. You'll spread out in the chest room. Your tanks will be doing the exact same thing. They'll be spread out. They'll be looking for engagements when they call it. Once you're in position and you start calling engages, same thing. You guys are successfully or positioned in the chest room, and you're pushing the lord room. The enemy's pretty much cornered at this point. They're either going to rush out, they're going to attempt to rush out, they're going to attempt to log out, or they're just going to fight to the very last. So essentially, you're going to want to have your tanks beating on the doors, sitting in the chokes, ready for counter engagements, of course. You want your locust players in proper position. You want your aggressive with the group. You want the defensive in the back, ready to drop as he in the group. Same thing as the other tiers. You call for engagements. Then once you drop your E's, you pull back to the safe distance. One thing I did mention is that you'll want to have soul sights and camlins looking for clumps or looking for the encounter engage calls when you're pushing these tiers. They can throw their E's over the wall, and that's gonna set up most of the kills for the group. And yeah, that's just the basics of attacking a castle and defending a castle. I just wanted to just really have people be aware of where to properly stand, what to look for when the shot caller, calls out engages, where to run to. You don't want to be clumped up. You just gotta know what to expect. Yeah. So if you have any questions, message Dusty Goobs.
Welcome to Jurassic